one of the most iconic actresses of Hollywood's golden age, who after one of the all-time great acting debuts...
You don't have to say anything and you don't have to do anything. Not a thing. Oh, maybe just whistle. You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
Blazed her trail in Hollywood as a fiercely independent and charismatic star. She was known for her alluring, sultry presence and her distinctive husky voice. With a stage and screen career that lasted 70 years, today's history maker is Lauren Bacall. Lauren Bacall was born Betty Joan Persk. Her friends always knew her as Betty. She was born on September the 16th, 1924 in New York City. Her parents were Jewish and Bacall had a difficult childhood. Her parents divorced when she was young and she was raised only by her mother. She made her acting debut on Broadway in 1942 at the age of just 17 as a walk-on part and was crowned Miss Greenwich Village. As a teenage fashion model, Bacall appeared on the cover of Harper's Bazaar and in magazines such as Vogue. A 1948 article in Life magazine referred to her cat-like grace, tawny blonde hair, and blue-green eyes. The Harper's Bazaar cover caught the attention of Slim Keith, the wife of Hollywood producer and director Howard Hawks. Keith urged her husband to invite Bacall to take a screen test for his forthcoming film, To Have and Have Not. After meeting Bacall in Hollywood, Hawks immediately signed her to a 7-year contract and personally began to manage her career. He changed her first name to Lauren, which she never liked, and she herself chose Bacall, a variant of her mother's maiden name, as her screen surname. Slim Hawks also took Bacall under her wing, dressing Bacall stylishly and guiding her in matters of elegance, manners, and taste. At Hawks's suggestion, Bacall was trained by a voice coach to speak with a lower and deeper voice instead of her normally high-pitched one. During her screen tests for To Have and Have Not in 1944, Bacall was so nervous that to minimise her quivering, she pressed her chin against her chest, faced the camera, and tilted her eyes upward. This effect, which came to be known as, quotes, the look, became another Bacall trademark, along with her distinctive, sultry voice. Bacall was only 19 when Hawks cast her in this, her first film, and she made one of film history's great acting debuts.
Oh, maybe just whistle. You know how to whistle, don't you, Steve? You just put your lips together and blow.
Alongside the very well known at the time Humphrey Bogart, who she famously tells to put his lips together and blow. The film would have a profound effect on both her career and her personal life, with Bacall and Bogart beginning a romantic relationship several weeks into filming. It is worth noting that when they met, Bacall was 19 and completely inexperienced in the ways of fame and relationships, while Bogey, at 45, was some quarter of a century her senior. but also thrice married and one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Given that her father had abandoned her at the age of 6, she would emphatically deny that her attraction to Bogart had anything to do with seeking a father substitute. To have and have not catapulted Bacall into instant stardom, and her performance became the cornerstone of her star image. Her next big role was The Big Sleep in 1946, an immortal film noir derived from Raymond Chandler's novel. Arguably, no other director used Bacall's sultry, insolent verve like Hawks did. To see the exchanges between Bogart and Bacall in The Big Sleep is to be reminded of how special that Bogart-Bacall Hawks feeling could be. The Big Sleep laid the foundation for Bacall's status as an icon of film noir, with which she would be strongly associated for the rest of her career. On May the 21st, 1945, Bacall married Humphrey Bogart. She was married to Bogart until he died in 1957, and despite the 25-year age gap, he was clearly the love of her life. Bacall would appear in only 2 more films with Bogart, 1947's Dark Passage and 1948's Key Largo, which is John Huston's evocative thriller set in the Florida Keys. Into the 1950s, Bacall had 2 children, and rejecting scripts that she did not find interesting, thereby earned a reputation of being difficult. However, one of her more memorable appearances from this time is How to Marry a Millionaire, a 1953 early CinemaScope extravaganza in which she appeared alongside Marilyn Monroe and Betty Grable. While she would have third billing, it would seem she was able to upstage the other 2. Quote, "First honours in spreading mirth go to Miss Bacall, Alton Coop. The most intelligent and predatory of the trio, she takes complete control of every scene with her acid delivery and viciously witty lines." Another notable film from the 1950s would be 1956's Written on the Wind. While Bacall wrote in her autobiography that she did not think much of her role, reviews were very favourable. Bacall was seen in only a handful of films in the 1960s and 70s, appearing in only 5 films over the course of 2 decades. She did, however, forge a successful stage career during this time, the most renowned of her films of this time being The Shootist from 1976, an elegiac farewell to the Old West and also to one of its great mythologizers, her aging co-star, John Wayne. She also would appear in Murder on the Orient Express, which has an all-star cast. The Rotten Tomatoes critics' consensus reads, "Murder, intrigue, and a star-studded cast make this stylish production of Murder on the Orient Express one of the best Agatha Christie adaptations to ever see the silver screen." Christie herself even gave it a mark of approval. In the 80s and 90s, perhaps her most notable role was in 1996, where she was chosen by the director Barbra Streisand to play her mother in the romantic comedy The Mirror Has Two Faces, also starring Jeff Bridges and George Segal. The reviews for her role were positive, including that, quote, Lauren Bacall bestows an extra layer of shimmering, stellar poise, and that, quote, she exudes a feline radiance women half her age would envy. At age 72, she was nominated for the first time for a Best Supporting Academy Award. After having won the Golden Globe, she was widely expected to win the Oscar, but was pipped at the last when she lost to Juliette Binoche for The English Patient. Another notable but small role was as James Caan's agent in Rob Reiner's Misery, based on the novel by Stephen King. In her latter years, she would be cast by Lars von Trier in the first two parts of his stylized stage set American trilogy. These were Dogville in 2003 and Mandalay of 2005. Jonathan Glazer cast her alongside Nicole Kidman as a New York socialite in The Brilliant Birth of 2004. And her inimitably husky voice can be heard on the English language dubs of Howl's Moving Castle and the French animation Ernest and Celestine. Bacall was a staunch Liberal Democrat all her life and proclaimed her political views on numerous occasions. Bacall and Bogart were among about 80 Hollywood personalities to send a telegram protesting the House Un-American Activities Committee's investigations of Americans suspected of adhering to communism. Bacall would write 2 autobiographies reflecting on her life and that she had been lucky. Quote, I had 1 great marriage. I have 3 great children and 4 great grandchildren. I am still alive. I still can function. I still can work. You just learn to cope with whatever you have to cope with. I spent my childhood in New York riding on subways and buses, and you know what you learn if you're a New Yorker, that the world doesn't owe you a damn thing. Bacall would die in 2014 and is buried next to Bogart, whose urn apparently contains the whistle he had given Bacall with the inscription, if you want anything, just whistle. A screen icon over a 7-decade career, a formidable actress, she progressed from precocious femme fatale to Broadway star with 2 Tony Awards and more than 60 films to her name. There is no doubt Lauren Bacall was a history maker.